Hello race fans, and here we are. Welcome back to our third season, kicking it off in F1 2019 here. After coming third place last season, we're hoping to improve on that. We have made some tweaks to the difficulty adjustments over the off season here. So we went from 96 to 101 is the difficulty we're up to now. So we are going to head over to Australia, see how we can manage against these slightly faster cars. But first things first, let's take a look through some of our team goals development. We've got a goal, 2 race weekends to finish top 6. We'll see what kind of weather we've got incoming. We did have a gearbox durability come in over the off season, so that should keep us in pretty good shape. Gearbox wise, we shouldn't be taking any more of those throughout this career, I think. But very, very wet qualifying coming in, and now you can see in the vehicle performance, we're second behind Red Bull now, and you can see just all the lines dropping down, all the teams that did not get enough adaptations done. We were really the only team to not take a hit, but the field has definitely tightened up here. So a lot of teams are going to be working their way back up towards us, but let's hop in the car, head out to qualifying.
We're just about ready to kick off today's qualifying here in Melbourne. It's the Australian Grand Prix. With the weather as it is today, Anthony Davidson, we have, to some extent, to throw the form book out of the window. Who do you see having the advantage on this slippery, unpredictable track surface?
The trouble is, Crofty, they need to be thinking about the race tomorrow. You don't want to go jacking up the ride heights and piling on a few points of extra downforce that you're not going to want in the Grand Prix itself. The Parc Fermé regulations mean that you have to make that choice. The best thing the drivers can do is adapt with the tools they have available in the cockpit. Moving the brake bias forward will help stop the rear end slipping out under braking, and opening up the differential can really help tame the oversteer on corner exit. The drivers that can make best use of these techniques will have the best chance for success here today.
So after a really dry Season 2, we are immediately stricken with rain in the qualifying session and also in a couple of the practice sessions here in Australia. So it was kind of tough to get an ideal car setup for the race because it was working in wet weather the whole time. But here we are just kind of tiptoeing our way around, and let's see what we can do. I mean, cranking up the difficulty and then immediately ending up in the wet race is not, or wet qualifying is not ideal for getting a feel for the way the difficulty has changed. So here we are crossing the line with the first flying lap. 4.2 seconds off the best time set by George Russell at the moment. So a lot of time to find there. So we've done a few more laps. You can see 5 laps in here. We are P18. The rain has lightened up just enough for us to get onto the inters, but it's still coming down pretty heavily. But you see we're gaining about a full second at this point here. Checkered flag is waving, so unless we can really pick up in the last sector here, which getting on the throttle is a little tough there, lose some time down this straight, we're going to be in danger of hitting that drop zone, because we are also not the last car out on the track. There are a few cars that are going to finish laps after we run through as well. But I mean, Season 1, Season 2, we had rough qualifyings to start the season off in Australia. It's looking like we might be having to make our way through the pack once again, even though our car's in a much better position. I mean, Australia just seems to be a thorn in my side when it comes to qualification. So let's see where we are. Did we make it into Q2? Nope. P17, so we are going to be starting towards the back of the grid here. Now, unlike last season, I will not be taking any engine penalties to get new fresh parts, not starting P20. I will take this P17 start position into the race here, but definitely a lot of work to do, and with a team goal of finishing in the top 6, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's looking like it probably might even have to wait till next week's race, but we do have an all-dry race coming up, so let's see what we can make do with that. Let's see how far off the pace we're. Still 3 seconds off the best time, as a lot of guys got their inner runs in at the very end.
The atmosphere is heavy with expectation and anticipation, and bearing the weight of that burden today is a place we know very well indeed. It's Albert Park, The story of the season begins here then with the Australian Grand Prix, and it's time for the first chapter to be written. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. I'm joined today in the commentary box, as I will be throughout this season, by a great racing driver, former F1 competitor, former world champion, and as he tells me all too often, an all-round top chap. It's the one and only Anthony Davidson. And tell me, here we are, first Grand Prix of the season, first time racing these cars. What are the big questions that need to be answered here, in your view?
Oh, thanks, Crofty. It's a real privilege to be here, and I can't wait to see what's in store for us this season. Now, to answer your question, one of the biggest things is reliability. Formula One cars are full of very sophisticated but also very sensitive technology, and this first Grand Prix of the season is going to push them to the limits. So the most important thing today is to stay out of trouble, get to the end of the race and keep everything in good condition.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Hamilton, Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and Giovinazzi, Norris, Butler, Vettel, and George Russell, Raikkonen, Sainz, Alexander Albon, and Magnussen, Grosjean, Weber, Oldtimer, and Daniel Ricciardo. Stroll and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Keep your eyes open on the run to turn 1 and keep it clean. We want to come out in one piece. Good luck.
All right, so here we are towards the back of the grid, taking a peek at our strategy, and man, Sergio Perez's AI is just absolutely doing miracles with that Racing Point machine. I mean, we've got his teammate Lance Stroll right behind us in the grid, but he's all the way up in the top 10. Really just running like crazy. So making some adjustments to the strategy. I think we're going to try and go hard to soft. Now, one of the other things that happened with moving the difficulty up is, in order to hit lap times that we need for practice programs, you got to push even harder, so you take a little more out of the tires. So I'm probably going to have to run a little bit more aggressive tire strategies. I won't be able to be as gentle on them as I was early on, but here we are kind of going 3 wide into turn 1, 2, squeeze Lance Stroll across the inside, but we managed to keep our nose mostly clean there as Ricciardo's still kind of wheel banging along the inside of us. We're battling our way down in. Little late on the brakes as we have to kind of make a move to avoid Grosjean. That leaves a little bit of an opening for Stroll to get through, but once again able to keep the front wing clean and not bash it off. But you can see the pace that other cars have on us right now at the start of this race here, even with the train all up ahead of us. So it's definitely going to be an adjustment moving up to the top levels of difficulty here. I mean, we started this career playing on 85, made a big jump up to 96 last season, and even though it's only another 5 points, going from the mid 90s to the over 100, the pace is very different. But we managed to slip our way through up to P16 here, so we picked up 1 position off of our start, but now we're starting to see a little bit of a gap open up in front of us. So unless we can make something really happen, we're going to be in a fair bit of trouble. We got Lance Stroll now looking down the inside of us into the right hand. He kind of jams his nose down in there, wheel bangs with us a bunch, outbrakes a little bit to the outside. We're going to try and still go side by side with him. He's still right there, just kind of shoving his nose in. Really lucky to not be spun there. A lot of contact, and he kind of nudges us off to the side of the track there, but we lose a little bit of pace, and he's got the slipstream, so he goes down the inside into turn 1 and manages to snag that position off of us. Now, once again, we're on the hard tire. They are on a slightly faster tire compound, but again, it's just tough to keep up with these guys. They're very quick now. And I'm still having trouble figuring out. I didn't have a lot of time in dry running in practice to really get the ride height figured out. You can see, just like I was talking at the tail end of Season 2, tons of sparking. I'm certain I'm losing time and control based on having that underfloor dragging against the ground so frequently. So it's definitely something I'm gonna have to play around with a little bit more in the coming up races. But now we've got to kind of hit a phase where we're going to kind of settle into the race. We do have a little bit of a train behind us. Both of the Renaults and a Haas behind, and we are sitting P17, so basically right where we started the race. No movements up, no movements really down. Stroll's gotten by us, but we made a pass. I think Ricardo started behind us at the start of this GP here. But really, Australia is all about getting a feel for the car after the off-season changes, and especially for me, because I do all my difficulty changes in the off-season to allow myself to adapt over the full season. I think 101 is probably about where I'm going to keep it from now on. If I really start coming on at the end of the season, and then when I get ready for the next season, I might bump it up, but no guarantees. But we've got Grosjean hounding us into turn 3 there, right behind us. DRS is now enabled, but we're starting to lose touch with Stroll in front of us, and we just kind of have to hold out long enough until the soft tires start to fall off and we can start to get an advantage on the hards here. I think most cars are running a one-stop this weekend. Should all be pretty much running a one-stop, but they're kind of running the inverse of what I'm running, which is they're running soft onto hard or medium, depending on their tire wear characteristics. But we are just being absolutely hounded. One spot I was able to pick up a lot of pace through this chicane here. I usually gained a little bit of time and gap, so I kind of, for the most part, took this DRS zone kind of out of play for the AI. But still, they're just quick. There's long DRS straight on the front straight, and they're very good through this final little sector here. I really struggled with these last couple of corners. This hairpin I usually got all right, but getting the throttle on and then this right-hander, you really have to be brave and committed to run it all the way out to that curb. But you see the back end step out on me, getting on the throttle on the main straight, and now they've got DRS and the slipstream on us, so that means Grosjean is going to have a good run down into the braking zone. We're kind of side by side. We managed to just hold him off. He kind of gets out of the throttle since we were hanging out around the outside of turn 2 there. So we managed to just barely defend our place even after a pretty big mistake out of the final corner and onto the main straight. So gave him a pretty good run, but we are running a little bit of a lower downforce setup just because our aero development's so good at this stage of the season. So we have pretty solid straight line speed. We're hop ahead. Lap 8, we've got Pierre Gasly now up on us, and the Renaults of Daniel Ricciardo and the Haas of Grosjean have fallen back a fair bit, but we are just being absolutely hounded. You can see the gap ahead to Stroll in that next train. We are starting to reel them in a little bit. They are starting to feel the effects of tire wear, but man, Pierre Gasly is absolutely hounding. See, we're about 6 seconds back of that group in front of us at the moment. We run a little wide out of that corner there. That's going to allow Gasly a pretty good run on us. We just need to kind of hold station as much as we can. We need a better exit than we did that last time when Grosjean had the run on us. We need to get a better run out of this final corner here, which we do. Able to get on the throttle a little bit earlier, get good traction down, crank up the ERS deployment. He's got DRS open, but he's not going to be able to quite close the gap. We have enough straight line speed to kind of hold him off there. So at least in that regard, that's one instance where we just kind of managed to keep him off. But there he is all over our gearbox still. And I will be completely honest, I am not immune to the pressure. I definitely become more nervous, make mistakes when I'm under pressure by other drivers. You see, running a bit across the grass there, lost me some pace. But when I'm pressured, I still haven't gotten that cold-blooded killer instinct yet. Still working on keeping it, because you do have to pay attention to where that car is behind. And man, he just gets a little bit of a better exit here and there. Now again, this is an area where I kind of excel. This chicane, I should be able to hold a little bit of a gap, but you can see just the speed of change of direction through those corners. You carry a lot of pace through there. You're through, 5th and 6th gear coming through that, but he's got to run on us into that corner, and we kind of managed to hang around the outside. A bit of a drag race into the next corner, still side by side, battling wheel to wheel. We're going to go up the inside a little bit, out, brake ourselves, and kind of get a little wide on the exit, and it kind of cuts him off. No real contact through there, but he did have to kind of take avoiding action to avoid the collision. But, you know, with the FIA, if no harm, no foul. If there's collision, then they'd probably look at me for a penalty. But if that other car is getting out of the way, then typically I'm going to be all right. And it was just a mistake, a little bit of a lockup. But hopping ahead, lap 11. Gasly's still all over us. Yellow flags ahead. Our rival last season, Charles Leclerc, is the first DNF of the new season, lap 11. So for once, the curse has not bitten Valtteri Bottas. I think, if I remember correctly, I know Valtteri was out in season 1. I think Valtteri also had a DNF in season 2 here in Australia. So finally, it looks like the curse is transferred to someone else, but the first DNF of the season across the entire field goes to none other than Charles Leclerc, which is very, very unfortunate for him. Now pit cycles are starting to come through. You see George is in for his stop. We move up to P12 based on all the cars in the pit lane. Still only 2/10 off of our previous fastest lap, so the hards definitely still have some life in them. But we're going to go ahead and hop ahead. Lap 17 now. We've got Lewis Hamilton closing in on us after having made his stop. We cycled all the way up to 4th position. I believe the 3 cars ahead of us have not yet made their stop, but
Okay, gap ahead is 6.8
Lewis is now inside 1 second of us. We got an almost 7-second gap to Giovinazzi ahead of us. Ahead of us. But you can see on the mini-map there in the bottom left, there's quite a train being held up by that whitish dot of George Russell. So there's a big crew that's still all racing together at the moment. So it's just a matter of, can we hold off Lewis Hamilton, or is his fresh tires really going to just beat up on us? So not great through the exit, a little bit of oversteer. I think it's pretty much curtains for us. You see him get around the outside, come down the drag strip, getting just ahead, and yep, he is easily by us to take that position. No time like the present, though. We've got our pit lap this lap, so we got to push hard. We've got Sebastian Vettel closing in on us, though. But we are going to be getting on a fast tire, so it's just going to be a matter of where we cycle out and how many positions we're going to have to claw our way back through. But at this point, we are going to, you see that big train, we are going to kind of come out behind that. We are going to absolutely have to fight and have some really great laps if we are going to have any chance at coming through and getting in the points even at this stage. I mean, only 11 laps left to go. Vettel's all over the back of us now. Those fresher tires are really just harming us. You see, we're already 7/10 down on our previous best, so the hards have definitely fallen off at this point. I mean, they gave us a good solid, you know, almost 20 laps of life, so can't complain too hard. But they're definitely feeling it at this stage. Here are peeling off into the pit entry, see if we can get a good entry to the limit line, get on the brakes, get the car slowed down. A little bit of a lockup as we scrub off the last few miles an hour, but here we are into the pits. You can hear just tons of cars are racing by us, and that is shuffling us way down the grid. But here we are, quick tire change on those soft tires, get out nice and smooth. Let's see if where we come out as we cross the limiter line. We are P18, second to last car running, with Grosjean bearing down on us into turn 1. So we got 10 laps to go to try and make up as many positions as we can. I think at this stage, you know, the tough starting position, the difficulty increase, and the less than ideal tire strategy, we're going to be in for. It's going to be a stretch to try and make it into the points here. Well, let's see how fast we can reel in Danny Rick. 2.3 ahead of us at the moment.
Some information on Grosjean. They have some kind of mechanical problem.
And Grosjean's got an issue behind us, so we should be pretty safe from attack from behind. I have high doubts he'll be able to close up on us depending on what that issue is. But now we just really have to work our way and try and get at Ricciardo. Let's see, 1.9 at the next split, so almost a full half second in the first or in the second sector there, and that's after coming off of a slow first sector coming out of the pits here. So you can see reeling him in. He's on the hard tire, so he doesn't have nearly the grip we do on these softs. So if we can get, we might be just outside of the 1 second mark at the DRS detection zone. Yeah, we were. So we're going to have to try and chase him down the old-fashioned way as we run through the speed trap.
Gap to teammate ahead is 17.9 seconds.
Yeah, and 17 seconds ahead, almost 18 seconds to try and catch our teammate, who had qualified much better than us. George Russell, you know, maybe took all the harsh speaking I gave him towards the end of last season to heart, and is going to be more of a points contributor to the Constructors' Championship this season. Fingers crossed. Let's see where we're at. Next split, right on the tail. Only a half second. You can see 1.1 seconds up on our best lap by going on this lighter fuel load with these softer tires. Really gives us a good amount of pace differential compared to what we were doing on the hards. But here we are. We'll see. I think we might be able to get a good run on Ricciardo here. Tuck into the slipstream. Not an ideal overtaking position, but we've got a significant tire advantage, so we're just going to go ahead and take it from him. We really have to be very quick and decisive with all of our overtakes at this stage of the race if we're going to get anywhere near into a decent finish at all. But Australia's been a bit of a thorn in my side throughout the career. I mean, it really just, I think it just kind of comes down to fighting the difficulty changes. But let's hop ahead a couple of laps. Lap 23. We used the soft tires to turn in the fastest lap of the race so far, but here we are. Half second back in DRS range of Pierre Gasly here. Didn't get a great exit out of the chicane. Not quite close enough to make a move down to that braking zone, so we're going to have to kind of settle in. Unfortunately, lose a little bit of time as we head to the next overtaking zone. Luckily for Australia, there's a fair few overtaking opportunities. You're not stuck, you know, half the whole lap. A little bit of oversteer as we have to counter steer and save the car, but keeping the foot in the throttle there. But yeah, not like a half a lap to get into an overtake zone like some of the other circuits. But Pierre Gasly kind of turns in aggressively into turn 2, even though we were right next to him. But just a little bump side by side. We're able to get nice and through and hit that braking zone. And now we've got our eyes ahead to the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, who's next on our victim list if we can get there. Now he's on the medium tires, so we don't have quite as significant of a pace advantage.
Gap to the car ahead is
3.4 seconds to go. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I was about to mention it as we crossed the sector timing line, but 5 laps to go, almost 4 seconds to jump it. So here we are, hopping ahead. Lap 27 as we take across the line. 0.6 behind Magnussen. Oh, we've got yellow flags. What's it for? Magnussen way off the pace. We have to kind of dodge him through that corner. Something is wrong with him. He is going to be pulling off and DNFing. Really tough timing right as we're coming through a braking zone and adjusting. We were looking to tuck in and get him down the next straight, but he had to kind of pull off to the side. Luckily, he was able to get enough off the racing line, but we still had to get out of the throttle and lose some time. And at this point, every 10th counts as we're trying to run up, because once we catch the next big group, that's pretty much, if you get to the front of that group, you can get into the points. But it's just a matter of, can we catch that group over the next 3 laps? I mean, we're at 27 of 29. You can see the Renault has gone through, so Kevin Magnussen is out of the session. So Alex Albon is next up ahead, 3.2 seconds up. It's him, Stroll, and then a big clump right ahead of that. But that clump is getting held up a bit, and you can see Stroll and Albon are really catching up to that group, and we are just getting glimpses of them around the next couple of corners. So now it's in my head, push, push, push. We're trying to go as hard as we can, run out wide on as many exits as possible. Let's see what our timing gap is crossing the line here. 2.9. And George Russell is 5 seconds up in that clump ahead. Lap 28, only 2 laps left to go here. We're going to use everything that we have to try and turn. We've still got the fastest lap of the race at the moment. We may be, but just ran a little bit wide, a little bit wide there, a little wide there. Really cost us big time. And that is really going to hurt our opportunities to catch that group, as the back end really is struggling to catch the grip. Once you get a little bit of tire slip, it really struggles to catch that grip. All right, so we're hitting the braking zone after that fast sweeper, getting ready to head towards that really quick chicane again. You can see that group just winking out of view as we cut to that camera angle. We're starting to close up just a little bit, but is it gonna be enough for us to make some positions? Really hustling the car through that chicane that time. See, we're essentially on the same straight now as we hit the braking zone. Can we reel in? Is this group gonna be backed up enough? It looks like George might be in that group, kind of backing that group up towards us, so we've got a little bit of help from our teammate, it would seem, but just starting to get in range of them. We really run out wide on that exit, take as much track as we can, but not quite close enough in range to get down the DRS. So we are just having to kind of catch this crew on raw pace. So through turns 1 and 2. Not quite enough room to really make a move just yet, but we are definitely reeling in. Next time we hit a DRS zone, we will be right there with them in order to make that move happen. A little bit over the curbs that time, lose a little bit of pace, but we're going to catch it back up through that flat out right-hander when you're on these light soft tires with a light fuel load, and really trying to push as hard as we can and really just putting the car on the absolute ragged edge. So we're going to send it, just absolutely lick the stamp, send it down the inside of Alex Albon, managed to get to the braking zone and inside the corner first, and managed to just sneak our way past him. So now we are starting to reel our way into Lucas Weber, trying to get on the tail of him. A little bit of a bump, does some damage to our front wing there, but we're on the last lap. We got to make something happen. Diving towards the inside of the brake zone. We get just by him. Yes, we managed to get through. Coming through. Can we get one more position before the end of the race here? We're braking into the hairpin. Can we try and get our nose down the inside? Run out a little while. A little tap on the wall. Does some more damage to our wing. And now that's going to put us at risk of Lucas behind us. So we're looking behind. He's kind of moving to the side. But we managed to cross the line and just barely hold him off and come through. And we've got P13, so not our best result, but we managed to somehow bring the car home a little bit in pieces this time.
Victory for Red Bull today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on the track was today: speed. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, Crofty, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves. And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. Max Verstappen's excellent result today sees him take over as leader of the Drivers' Championship. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for Driver of the Day?
Lance Stroll certainly put in an impressive performance today. No doubt his team and fans are extremely proud.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull take over as championship leaders. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
Man, a second place at the opening race for Sergio Perez. That, like I said, that insanely strong AI. Lance Stroll cut his way through the field decently, but just like us, stayed out of the points. We are 6th early on in the Constructors' Championship, thanks to George Russell's 4 points for his 8th position, but not our best opening race.
I'm sure you're pretty happy with that.
It wasn't an amazing performance, Claire. I'm sorry.
You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you?
Yeah, we definitely gained a lot of spots, but I mean, it was more pit strategy, but you know, Aero definitely helped out.
Do you think you were lucky not to end your
kind
race
of.
with that crash?
I mean, it was no fault of the car for sure, so I'm gonna no comment. It was no fault of the car, but it was purely driver. A lot of wheel banging early on.
Thanks anyway.
That's a great result. You did really well. I don't think we can have any complaints with that performance.
I have personal complaints with it, Jeff, but you know, if you're happy, that's fine. I'm okay with it. But we did get a good haul of R&D points coming off the off-season here. We did win that rivalry with Leclerc as well, so at the start of the next race we will pick a new rival. But let's go ahead and see what we can develop with our new fresh points now that we can finally develop for the first time in like 10 races, I think, is where we really started to dive into adaptation. Yeah, I think that was around Spa. So yeah, been a long time since we've had new upgrades come into the car. Obviously, we had the gearbox come in the off-season. Those 2 failed upgrades got wiped off the board because I feel like if I had purchased those complete upgrade, they would have been wiped out by the adaptation. So we're going to go ahead and do a minor upgrade on the fuel systems, and we're going to go ahead and set a major up, I think, in one of the chassis development areas here, so that we've got something coming next week, something ready in 2 weeks, so they're kind of staggered. We're always making progress, but we get ourselves back up the chassis development chart again. But you know, we're really closing in on Red Bull. We'll have to see what all the other teams do coming into Bahrain now that the adaptations are all done. But yeah, not our best result. Australia has always been kind of a struggle throughout our entire career, but we come on stronger later in the season, and I think our car's in a very good spot. It's just going to be a matter of adapting to that higher difficulty level for me, and I think we're in a good spot to have a good season. If we can pick up some early race wins, we'll have a good chance at challenging for a championship, which is my goal this season after coming third last year. I want to challenge for the actual championship. So I will catch you guys next time as we head to Bahrain for race number 2. Thank you guys. Peace.